Welcome to Sessions by Monster Chats. Sessions is a new kind of show for us where we ditch the script and instead dig into the real stories behind the people in our professional lives. How do we all come together in this world of entrepreneurship, sales, and unified communications? One session at a time. All right, on today's episode, I'm going to be talking with Toni, who is the VP of Operations and Leadership Development of T&I Consulting. My name is Colin Mitchell. I'm the host of Monster Chats and the founder of Monster VoIP. We're going to dig into some of the pivots and some of the things that Toni's team is helping people with that is so relevant in today's business world. I'm super excited to learn more about Toni and talk about some of the cool things that they are working on. Toni, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I am hanging in there, Colin. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. I know that right before we hopped on, you told me you're very close to where the fires are going on, and you just thought, hey, we'll, just basically do a quick podcast, and who knows what might happen, right?
Right. If they do an emergency broadcast, I might have to drop.
Well, we're mobile. We'll just switch to the mobile phone, and we'll just continue the conversation as you're evacuating, whatever we have to do to use technology to keep it going.
Now that would be a viral podcast.
Yeah.
Sure. Getting evacuated, the emergency evacuation. This is what it looks like.
Yeah. So I know we talked a little bit before, but I want you to just kind of give us your story. Tell us, where it all started, how you got to starting T&I Consulting and where you grew up and things like that.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to start with the juicy stuff that's happening right now, and then I'll just do a backdrop and then bring it right back forward. Because right now, I know that people are going through so many different things, including myself. So just to make it as real as possible, I'm like literally in the middle of divorce. We're literally shut in. My child is at Arizona State, and now we're coming back, and he's going back to school. So there's like that, the angst of retooling my own business in the midst of the pandemic, going through, the separation and the whole thing. Everything in my world is pretty much blowing up right at the moment, which is actually still a good thing. And being able to even shift and pivot my business to be able to be competitive and compete in this market space. So I say all these things to say, because there's so many people that are listening that are like, we're all going through craziness, and we are, but there's a part of the process that helps you. When I look back at my journey through where I was to where I am now, there are all these things that we take for granted and don't think about that really can prepare us for times like today, times like these that allow us to survive and thrive.
Can you give us some examples? Like, what are some of the things in the past that have because I'm a big believer of that too. Like, our past is what makes us strong enough to go through the things that we're going through now. There's many things about my past that weren't that desirable, especially as a kid growing up, but they've made me who I am and be able to have the grit and the, perseverance that I have to be successful in business and other things. So can you give us some examples? Like, what are some of the things that you've been through in your past that have prepared you to be so strong and deal with what you're dealing with right now, which seems like so much?
Honestly, Colin, I think for me, I started out as a janitor at Casual Corner, which is just like a Macy's in Colorado. And I remember being 15 and a half, fictitiously putting I was 16 on my resume and as a janitor, because I'm like, if I can move my way up and work here, then I can actually get a good discount on the clothes so that I could do, so those kinds of things. I mean, since I was 10, I'd wanted to become an attorney. But for me, it was, I was watching Father Dowling at 11 o'clock at night when my mom would go to sleep. And, but the lessons of being able to roll up your sleeves and really work hard so that you can get where you're going. My parents split when I was way young. And so I think I was 8. And so we had a good lifestyle before my parents split. And then we had nothing, when my parents, divorced. And that was an adjustment. So for me, it was always knowing what it is to have and knowing what it is to have not. And being able to, or wanting to have the strive to actually regain myself or get back to a lifestyle that I wanted to live for myself. That's probably part of why I wanted to become an attorney. But the other part is just loving the pieces of what I was seeing with Father Dowling and Perry Mason back then. But as far as lessons, the drive to say, you know what, I may not know everything about what I want to do. And even when I went to school to become an attorney, I went to Mills College first, got my undergrad, was going to go to Hastings, went to a law firm, and literally hated it. Those timeframes teach you, okay, shoot, what do I have to change again? What am I actually going to do now? Where do I take this experience? I went into HR. I worked at Apple. I worked up my ranks up in Amdahl, and I worked at Hewlett Packard. I became an HR director at a small company. I learned, though, from learning every area of the business in the human resource function, that what I was most enamored by was the whole thing of presenting, the whole thing of getting up on stage, or basically training leaders and training, professionals. And that's what I've done over my career. It's over 10,000 leaders and professionals throughout my career.
Wow. Hold on. Let's back up for a second. 10,000 leaders. You cannot just drop a bomb like that and then get away without me asking a couple of questions.
Hey, break it down, Colin. 10,000 leaders and professionals. It's on both sides, both sides. It's leaders and professionals, but probably more leaders than just professionals. Yes.
That is a huge number.
Yes.
So let's back up for a second. Okay. So you went to school to be an attorney. And you put in the hard work, obviously, to get through that, and then realized you didn't want to do that. Before law school. Yes. Okay. Thank goodness. Okay. All right. So then you got into HR, right? And really started to realize, what you enjoyed doing, which is working with leaders and professionals. And then, what was your path from there? Like, how did you start to go down that? And when did T&I Consulting start? And kind of walk us through that journey.
Sure. When I started that path at Apple Computer, I started in HR because you think about it, you have a little bit of a legal background. How do you make that segue? So that was like the best thing from a career standpoint and career coaching standpoint that I received, which was the best segue into, let's look at what you want to do. When you get into a function, and at that time, that's what I learned. It was, okay, how can you actually sample and get access to or get into and learn every position in that area? So I went into HR, I did generalist work, I did recruiting, I did compensation, I did, all the other nuts and bolts, as well as training.
So it almost sounds like you already had a little bit of an idea of a plan of what you wanted to do, and it was just slowly gaining the experience and the knowledge and learning these different departments and parts of a business or in order for your long-term goals.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Because I had been wanting to become an attorney since I was 10 and then went to a law firm and it burst my bubble. So I didn't know what to do. All I knew was I gotta work. I've got to be able to do whatever I need to do. But I just figured if I'm going to be here, I might as well try to learn everything about it. That was the only thing. I didn't have a direction to go because, like I said, I'm in my early 20s at that time. I just knew I'm a driver. I had no idea what HR was. I hadn't really researched it because I was studying to become an attorney. So I just figured while I was there, you're at Apple Computer, you're going to climb. Let me just start learning as much as I can. And then as I did start learning, and then you get promotions and then you keep moving forward. What helped me to find out what I really started liking was the moment I was doing a little bit of everything, including the training. And at HP, that's where I trained so many. I was an HR business partner, and I remember the time frame, and the training was what was the thing for me, and that was what made me realize, ooh, that's why I wanted to become an attorney. Because when I was watching TV, Perry Mason and Father Dowling, the biggest thing you're seeing is them in the courtroom, right? You're seeing them present, you're seeing them, come to conclusions. Well, I remember times I had accounts across the nation and in Canada. I would be on, basically traveling around to, all the managers in all different business units that were assigned to me. I would have my luggage going to an event to train, leadership teams and to train the professionals within the organization. And I would have bags ready to go for the next trip because I only had time to come back, pay bills, and then take my new bags. So I always had 2 sets ready to go.
Oh, wow.
Go on to the next. Yeah, that's how much I was traveling. So I was on the road with HP, and it was fantastic because that was when I learned, oh, this is, I'm still insecure about it, but this is where I'm supposed to be. And so as I recognize that, I'm like, okay, HR, you can only do this for so long. Now I need to start climbing. And that I had to leave HP to jump to increase salary and increase my rank without having to wait 10 years to do it. So that's when I jumped to a small company, was an HR director. And then that was during the .com and .bomb. So .bomb, we went from under 50 employees to over 150 under, me staffing, that company within 8 months. Then we laid off everybody and I wrote my own layoff package. So then I actually said, okay, if I could not do
what
HR
a roller coaster.
Again, yeah, if I could not do HR again right now, that would be great. So I ended up doing some consulting, liking that for 2 seconds, and then taking a VP of operations position for Myrtle Potter, who had at this time in the Silicon Valley 5 different companies. And I did the shared services operations for her here in Florida and in the Bahamas. And that was when it was like, I love this, because I now know what it takes to build a company. And it doesn't matter how many different companies you're dealing with, all the operations, it's the same stuff up to a certain point. And then it's a construction. Here's the different things, nuances here. Here's the contracts in a real estate business. This is the different nuances, what that looks like. So that's why when.
So what was it about that role or doing it there that was different from what you'd done previously, where you really started to fall in love with it?
Because I was managing the operations and seeing how the entire the function of a business.
So is it the
operates? I had to create it from scratch.
Huh? Could you make more of an impact?
Oh, heck yeah, because I was creating everything. And sometimes I recognized in my own self that not only do I love the operations side, you're seeing different in operations than you are in HR. Even though I managed the HR function, I still was operations because I managed everything as the foundation. So 2 things happened. 1, I learned that I love this stuff. 2, I learned that I could recognize how to leverage systems and build the structure and infrastructure for a business. And then 3, doesn't matter where I go, I now know if I'm managing the operations of any business, it's all the same stuff up to a certain point. That's what transitioned me to the next level of being able to say, it won't matter what I do out here. I'm going to be able to help. I just need to be able to make more money than I can as an individual inside a company.
Right. Okay. And so tell me, when did you start T&I Consulting?
So, and people also hear it as Toni Navy International, if you see my logo and stuff like that. But after leaving there, I really just started consulting. And I think there was a mixed bag because it was right before 2008 and 9 when everything, you're going in, you're starting to consult. And now all of a sudden as a contractor, right, as a, consulting to other corporations, we're the first ones to get cut. Right. So married, I'm still married now, obviously, but married at the time. And so thank goodness, because at least you have that fallback. And that at that moment, that was a pinnacle shift for me, which has prepared me for right now, which is this. I said, never again will I be in a situation where I have all my eggs in one basket, because all my stuff was going after corporations, whether I was training or whether I was going to be doing their operations. Never do that again, because once all those contracts get cut, they're done. And you're done. Right. And that's what people are going through now. I know a lot of friends that are speaking and they spoke inside leadership companies, and shelter in place, everybody's contract is cut. And even if it's not, you're sheltered in place. You're still not doing business the same way. So that was my trek for trying to diversify my accounts, meaning now I do the leadership training for companies, and I do it virtually, but I also actually teach and showcase entrepreneurs and how to actually get their businesses online from an offline to an online space. So I have 2 clientele right now. So no matter what happens in the economy, if one goes down, the other one I still have access to, be able to actually do business with and still deliver. And so that was what got me on the path to learn how to do things online, to deliver online. And it's taken a decade to get to a place now where I can say, okay, I can train you how to do this, and I can still deliver what I'm doing, even though I'm not live. I can do it virtually in a heartbeat because I've been doing it for a long time.
Right. So there must be a lot of businesses that were not paying too much attention to online or virtual that are like, Toni, we need some help now. We should have listened to you a long time ago.
Right. And then you're still learning yourself, right? I mean, how long did, it takes you a while to kind of, get the new tools, things become, tools come up and down,
Oh yeah, the new tools come out, you learn those tools, and then by the time you finally figure it out, it's like, oh, now there's a new tool that does it better.
Exactly. I mean, I remember when I first started with video, I had like My Video Talk and Talk Fusion, and like, who knew I needed to use YouTube at the time? I'm doing my shows, I'm doing all these videos, and I'm like, oh, my online presence is jamming. Then they went under. So my whole TV station went down all at the same time, and then it looks like I haven't even been out here for 10 years. So it's like, but those are the learnings of an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So, and then you guys are doing some special things too, just like really helping people pivot and figure out what's next during the pandemic and things like that. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I've always done the how do you hire, how do you coach, and how do you lead. Those are kind of like if I go into a corporation, those are my sweet spots. I mean, I will customize whatever they need. But what I learned the moment that we are in the midst of this pandemic is, okay, how do I take that? Now I know I can deliver online. I can do a webinar in heartbeat. I feel very comfortable and confident, and we're here on Zoom, whatever platform, it's not going to matter. But I need to be able to repackage that so that I can deliver back and make sure that people know I can deliver in spades online as well. So what I did was, I'm like, okay, how do you now hire online in the space of a pandemic? How do you now lead? And the big thing is leading virtual and on-site teams, and with the twist in the age of COVID, because it's not just leading and you're dealing with high-performing teams virtually. You are now saying, okay, for the mom, the dad that has children at home that aren't going back to school, that they need to homeschool, they have family there, that they can't come back into the office because of the COVID-19 issue and not wanting to bring that back to their family who might be susceptible. People who don't want to go into the office, right? How do you deal with the on-site, dynamics there and still keep the system or the team functioning, still keep you operating as a leader? What does that look like in this space? And how do we keep you moving forward, future focused? So as a leader, how do you build those skills that allow you to become resilient and also allow you to be able to continue to thrive and inspire and empower your people no matter where they are now? So how do they think different, do different things? So I do pandemic consulting now in that space. Because that has been very powerful. But like I said, I still balance. So on the other side with my entrepreneurs, Colin, I am doing what's called Pivot to Profit Secrets. And it is a program where people are able to come in online, like what we're doing now. I get a chance to help an entrepreneur go from an offline or build that offline business and put it online so that they can sell, whether it's a speaker or an author. How do they put their training program online? Or whether it's just an entrepreneur that says, I just have no footprint online. How do you do that? And how do you do that effectively so that when we come out on the other side, you know how it is. If you're not online and they can't find you online, you will no longer exist after this.
I'm actually surprised that there's people that are still just now thinking about getting online.
Colin. You would be amazed. All you have to do is say, okay, give me your LinkedIn pro. There's things that I haven't even done on LinkedIn that I'm now like doing like gangbusters because I understand, but at least I was out there, but how many people have you I mean, come on, there's a lot of people. If you just really think about it, tell me, entrepreneurs, right?
So tell me, like, what are you seeing people pivot towards? Like, what is kind of the thing that people are thinking like, now is the time that I really need to start to do this thing that I haven't been doing? Like, what specifically are people really leaning into that you're typically working with them on?
I think that what I'm finding, and which is why I kind of like shifted the Pivot to Profit Secrets to make sure I could connect with speakers and facilitators and authors just like myself, is because you got a lot of people out there that are like, I've written this book, and now that I'm, I'm looking for a different job and looking for something else to do, I'd love to see if I could bring that to life, or I'd love to see if I could, get some kind of program and get it online and systematize it. So I'm going in and helping them do that because I have done it and I do it right now. So that's been a big one where it's a speaker, somebody wanting to put their program online. But on the other side of the house, There are people that are just saying, I need to make sure I not only have my footprint online, but I'm not sure what business I should go into. So they're becoming affiliates of different programs or tools that they use. They are, going into multi-level marketing. You're seeing that a bit more. On my show this morning, I had her name is Faizun Kamal. She is a franchise coach that is officially a Forbes franchise coach. And she is actually, we're seeing people go into businesses building franchises that are essential relative to essential, services now. So franchising like, tree cutting services and landscape things, or, the cleaning solutions and chemical productions, those kinds of things. So I'm seeing people say, okay, let's look at the market. Let's look at what's essential. And can I buy into a business that's doing that right now, like in the financial services, a State Farm person? Or can I shift and actually get into that business and start to build it myself?
Okay. So I think a couple takeaways is a lot of people are really looking into having additional revenue streams rather than just one or two. And then more people are really looking to kind of build their brand, build their online presence, or if they have somewhat of a presence, maybe improve it and figure out how to use it better, especially with the current situation, right?
So is your question, what are my suggestions around that, or what do you think?
So I'm saying it sounds like so what I'm saying is it sounds like from what you're saying, a lot of people are kind of leaning more into building their brand and their online presence, or if they have one, improving it and really looking for maybe additional revenue streams, like not just relying on one or what was working, just like how you've diversified, how you serve different types of people with your, with your leadership training and things like that. You have your entrepreneurs, you have your corporations, and then you also have these people that are, pivoting to profit. So people are diversifying what they're doing or looking to add additional revenue streams, but ultimately, overall, really just building their online presence or improving it.
No, I totally agree. And I think people not only have to do that and also have to be able to, increase that engagement even online, but be able to make sure that you're really truly building out a network as well online. Because now those networks are not only going to be good for whatever business you have going. I mean, think of in China where they took all those sales agents that were like dealing with cosmetics, and they all of a sudden got online and became social influencers. And many of them were more successful with the cosmetic company and as a salesperson or a sales associate than they were when they were inside the brick and mortar store. So that's the other thing for us now too. If you're in multi-level marketing, if you're doing affiliate, it doesn't matter what you're doing. The moment you actually expand your network online from a global perspective and really map out that, not just have the presence, but have some type of engagement and make sure that you now can see your network, your tribe, that becomes a game changer, and you become more valuable as a potential employee, consultant, contractor, or a business partner as a result of that too.
Oh, 100%. I totally agree with that. Like, I'm a big believer that your network equals your net worth, right? So especially you see this, people building their brand, their online presence, their network, utilizing LinkedIn. I mean, individuals have a bigger influence than company brands these days, right? So if you look at any social media, if you look at social media as an example, most individuals have more followers than a company page, and people ultimately trust people more than they do brands. So building that network, building the presence, building that relationship is like more important than ever, especially now.
No, I totally agree. And, I was so impressed to hear how many episodes of your podcast that you've done in such a short period of time. Like, are you doing and jamming like 3 to 5 podcasts a week or something? Like, this has only been since March. I've got my one little week show. I feel like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's, it's been a lot of fun. I enjoy doing the podcast. I mean, the biggest benefit for me is building relationships with incredible people like yourself. Like, that's the biggest benefit of the podcast for me, selfishly speaking. But for the listeners, is bringing people on that can really give some good insight and give them some good tips and things that they should be thinking about. For a while we slowed down production a little bit, but for a while I was doing like 3 a day.
A day?
Yeah.
Holy.
Well, it's an interesting story. I went on a podcast, and if I went on a podcast of a friend, and then I had so much fun doing the podcast. Yeah. next question was like, hey, how do I start a podcast? And he's like, well, you can interview people and I'll handle the rest. And so I said, all right, I think I could maybe do 2 episodes a month. I'm super busy. I think that's about my limit. And somebody came along and they had a successful podcast and kind of ruined that idea for me. He says, you have to do 20 episodes and then you have to release them daily in order to pick up a lot of listeners early on for iTunes. And I didn't know any better. So I'm like, all right, I guess we got to hunker down and do 20 episodes and then we can get to my comfortable 2 episodes a month. And so I don't know if that helped us. We did the 20 episodes. We released them daily. I don't know if it helped us pick up additional listeners. I have no idea. But we did it anyway. And then I was like, hey, we just really didn't let up on the gas. We just kept going and going at that rate. And we created a great product and process. And now we help people start, manage, and grow their podcast. Co-founder with a new company called Salescast. And it's been a lot of fun.
That is so awesome. And you're interviewing everyone. And, for me, for my show, it was kind of like I'm trying to interview and I have director and above from a corporate standpoint. And the target market is small business leadership edge. The target market is an entrepreneur because those are both my target markets. So every time I'm doing a show, I'm auditioning in front of an executive that I might be able to get hired into leadership, but I'm also trying to give back to the entrepreneurs that I serve too. So it's really fun. And in this space, you can interview a lot of people that you never would have gotten access to before.
Oh, yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And it's interesting because you build really good relationships with people that would take a lot of time. You learn things about them personally, professionally. It's a great tool for building your network, building your listeners, building your followers, building real relationships. There's so many benefits of having a podcast and then also, doing it in a way where you're creating content that is valuable for people that are listening to it. So before I let you go, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. Really appreciate it. Is there anything that you want to leave folks with? And more importantly, where can they find you? Where can they connect with you? Where can they learn more about what you're doing?
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me on the show today. This was a blast. I'm still loving the sign behind there because I'm that get it done kind of gal too. So for me, if people are wanting to actually connect with me, please connect with me on LinkedIn. That's such an easy space. And my handle is Toni Navy. You can go to my site at toninavy.com. But if you are looking to get online, pivottoprofitsecrets.com is one of my babies that I treasure and really get a chance to touch, somebody, whether they're looking for a job or looking to get themselves online right now. That's been powerful. But the thing I would like to leave for your viewers is for people to be able to look forward and see what they want to do different in this space and how they can be of value. And now that we're living an integrated life, how do you take your full self into the next thing that you're going to do because you can make it amazing no matter what the circumstances are?
Wow, that's powerful. Thank you so much. Toni, thank you for bringing your best self to the show today and putting it all out on the table. Really appreciate it. Welcome to the Monster Chats community. If you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe, share with your friends. We're listening for your feedback. The show is all about you. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Sessions by Monster Chats, presented to you by Monster VoIP. Monster VoIP started frankly because we were sick and tired of getting gouged on our business phone bill and getting dropped calls all of the time. Today, Monster VoIP serves over 6,000 customers and is passionate about saving businesses money and giving them the features that they need in a modern tech stack for today's companies. Text TRIAL to 424-378-6966 to get your free trial of Monster VoIP.